Hey guys, always Dizzy here. And yeah, let's look at round two from the 2022 Langley Open. I had won my first game, and my second pairing, as you might have seen here already, was against a 23-11 rated player. I think the highest rated player I've ever played. When I was a kid, I played someone who was quite high rated too, but I can't remember. That might have been like a rapid tournament. I was a kid, so I can't really remember. But at least as an adult, this is the highest rated player I've played by far. Um, I think the previous highest rated player I played was um, 18 or maybe 1900, 18 or 1900. So anyways, this was playing against my first titled player, essentially. Jorge Nunez Asensio. I probably butchered that. My apologies. And he's also FIDE. He's from Cuba, and I think he moved here a few years ago. This is his FIDE account, so he's 2271 FIDE rated, but nationally rated in Canada, he's 2300 or 2311. I actually should have looked up who he played. So I didn't have a whole lot of time before playing him. I think I might have had, because I had lunch. Wait, was this? No, this was round two. Yeah, so I had lunch. And then I might have had maybe half an hour back in my Airbnb before I had to get ready for round two. And I did prep for him, thinking it probably wouldn't help because he would probably just play some random stuff. But I did do as much prep as I could before I had to go and walk to the tournament area. He seemed to be exclusively a D4 player, and he didn't really deviate too much in his openings. So yeah, it was, it's kind of an honor to play somebody so highly rated. I talked to him a little bit before the game because it was kind of embarrassing though, because I had 2 or 3 lessons from the top player in Cuba a year or two ago, but I couldn't remember his name because it was only a couple lessons, and Cuban names are quite difficult. Anyways, I was trying to. So he asked me like who he was, and I couldn't remember his name, and it just sounded weird, right? Like it sounded like I was making it up. And then he starts listing all the top players. I'm like, no, not him. No, not him. He lists like 10 players, and then he like gives me a look like I'm crazy because, yeah, it's just kind of weird to not remember a coach's name, especially when he's the number one rated player in Cuba. But as I say, I only had 2 or 3 lessons with him. So yeah, so this was round two. Let's get going here. Let me get this set up. I think it'll be good to go. Yeah, unfortunately I was black, and it's just kind of frustrating because first game I was white against somebody 800 points lower, and now I'm black against somebody 800 points higher. But I guess that happens. So my opponent started with D4 as expected, and I played knight F6. I will mention that he whipped out all of his moves. I'm not sure if that was to intimidate me or he just didn't respect me or that's just his style. 1 second here. But he whipped him out as if he was playing blitz or bullet even. Like as soon as it was his move, just boom, just whipped him out. Knight F3. And this was board 2, by the way, so it's an open tournament with 100 players, and this is board number 2. So some people are kind of watching the game because it's top board. I played E6. He played C4, and I was expecting all of this when I had prepped for him, but it was a short prep. I played B6. And he played a3, which I was also expecting. I believe this is called the Petrosian variation. And I think, if I remember correctly, that Kasparov quite liked this as well as white. And it's really designed to stop bishop b4, it's kind of like an anti-Nimzo, even though this isn't a Nimzo, but same idea, I believe. I played bishop b7, played knight c3. And what's interesting is a few days prior, maybe not even a few days, yeah, probably 2 or 3 days prior, I was actually watching a video from international master Casa Corley, who had a game, who analyzed one of his games from, I think, 2019, where he played black. And it was this opening. So I had some ideas in mind based on that, but it wasn't we didn't follow it exactly in this game. I thought for a bit here, but then I played d5, c takes. And I also thought here for a while, trying to remember, because I'm not good against d4. Like, I just don't know it that well. Hopefully no future opponents hear that and play d4 against me. So I was just trying to think if I wanted to take recapture with the e-pawn or the knight pawn. I took with the knight pawn. Did I say knight pawn? Oh my god. With the knight. It's not a knight pawn. I took with the knight. And this was the first move that my opponent, my 2300 rated opponent, thought for a bit. I think, like, I don't know, but I think the main line is something like, it might be queen c2 here. And I'm not sure if this will all transpose or not. But he did think for a little bit. You know, he kind of put his head up like that. And then he played e3, which I think is the second main line here. And I'm wondering if he made a conscious choice to start to deviate a little bit from the main line, because maybe he's like, okay, my opponent is 1500, it's move 6, and he's followed main line theory so far. Maybe I should start to get him out of book. Make him play on his own. So maybe that's why he played e3, but it might just transpose. I really don't know this line very well at all. At all, really. I played bishop e7, and his next move surprised me, but it's actually just main line apparently, and very thematic. He played bishop b5 check. And I'm trying to remember the opening that I was looking into a few days prior, just because I was looking up the Casa Corley game. I forget what it was. Yeah, it was similar to this. I wonder if it was bishop g5. No, that can't be it. Can it? It might have been bishop g5, and then after bishop e7, queen a4 check. Or it might have been even queen a4 check here right away. But that's what that's what was fresh in my mind. So I wasn't, when we came across this position, I just didn't know the ideas. But yeah, he played bishop b5 check. And I guess knight bd7 looks like the very first natural move. I'm trying to remember why I didn't play knight bd7, because I didn't. Oh yeah, just sorry, yeah, because knight bd7, then there's knight e5. Yeah, so we can't play knight bd7 because of knight e5. So really, c6 is kind of forced and is the main line. I mean, and then he instantly goes to bishop d3. As soon as we play c6, bishop d3. So obviously he knows this very well. I mean, he's 2300, of course he will. Plus, this is his bread and butter. This is the type of opening he plays all the time. So at this point, I was, let's see how much time. I burned a little bit of time on my clock because I'm just not familiar with these positions. It turns out I played main line the whole way in response to White's moves. But it did cost me a bit of clock time. So let's see. So move 8. Got my score sheets here. See, I record all my time. I record all my times on them, which is really useful for doing stuff like this. But sorry, C6. So at this point, it's not too bad. I spent 9 minutes total. That's not bad at all. And he actually spent 8 minutes. Wait, sorry. No, he had more time than he started with. So he's up 2 minutes on the clock. He has an hour and 32 minutes at this point, and I spent 9. And then I spent 3 minutes on the next move. So I castled. And then he did think here for a little bit too, actually. On move 10. Yeah, he thought for 4 minutes. And again, I think he was probably thinking of ways to switch up the position. He might have been concerned that I know theory here, just because I am following the main line, pretty much. So I'm thinking that he was thinking of ways to deviate, but then he ends up castling in the end. And I played knight d7. And he plays e4. And later on when I analyze this position, this is all thematic. Like this is a known tabia. White, and I think I have a note. Is it this opening? No, it might be another one. But yeah, anyways, this is like a pretty regular position in this opening. So anyways, he played e4. I take the knight. B takes again. This is all very standard. How long did I spend on move 12? Oh, just a minute. So I played c5 here, which again is thematic, and I didn't know it because I just did not know the opening, but it seemed natural enough to me because basically opening up my light squared bishop and starting to contest the center. We spend a tempo going from c6 to c5, but so did White. White went from e3 to e4, so the tempo was kind of break even in that regard. I was pretty happy with my c5 move, and after I played it, I think my opponent kind of went like very subtly, like shook his head to yes, like c5 is fine. There's also I believe the engine or the database recommended some other moves as well, and they're all pretty much the same eval. I think rook c8 might have been one of them, or rook e8. So there's still ways to transpose and alternatives here, but I like c5 because it's the most direct, straightforward. He played bishop f4, and that was very annoying. And I spent a very long time responding to that. Yeah, I spent 9 minutes, which is a long time on move 13. So I spent 9 minutes here because what do you do? I started to get worried about my queen because White has a lot of avenues for his queen. He can go to a4, b3, c2, e2, right? My queen can't move anywhere, and it's kind of stuck. And it's stuck in the center, so I'm kind of worried about like queen e2 from White, and then rook d1, and my queen is stuck in the center there. So this bothered me. This was the first move that really gave me a headache. And I couldn't really think of anything fantastic, but the move I played, I think the computer was fine with it. Well, it's not like the best move, I believe, but it's okay. I played rook e8. I thought just, okay, we're freeing up the f8 square. Maybe my bishop or my knight will go there, and the e-file might open up eventually. So it's playable, but it's not optimal. I forget what the computer suggested. I think it might have been rook c8, but it's not like the computer doesn't really. The computer says it's an equal position. I analyzed this like 5 days ago, so I can't quite remember everything. But anyways, rook e8 was okay. It's not terrible. He played rook e1, and then I'm kind of stuck in the same situation. Like all I did was move the rook to e8. So what do I do now? The position hasn't really changed much. So I played rook c8, and the computer likes rook c8. He plays queen d2, and I then make a blunder, and it's not a great move. So it's a blunder on its own. If I was familiar with these types of positions, this is a very easy move to avoid. Like it's something you won't really even consider seriously. Now I'm, kind of recognize this fact. But the issue of knight f8 is largely because I'm not familiar with this position. I played knight f8. So, I played rook e8 a couple moves prior, and so it made sense to utilize this f8 square to pivot my knight or my bishop into. I think knight f8 to g6 seemed natural enough to me. The problem is, and I just want to see how quickly he responded. He did think for 2 minutes. So the problem is specifically what my opponent played, bishop b5. And we're screwed. Because if I play, the only move really to consider at first is bishop c6, which seems fine. But then what do you do after knight e5? Right? Wait, that can't be right because I would just take his bishop. Hang on. Well, oh, no. Okay, I'm trying to remember now. I think it was because of bishop a6. Yeah, I think if I go bishop c6 here, there's bishop a6. And then I go rook a8, but then it's like I waste a full tempo because I brought the rook out to c8 before. So I didn't want to do that. But in hindsight, maybe that's not like the worst thing in the world. Although, but then there is knight e5, right, as well. And it's just an uncomfortable concession. But then what else do you do here? Right? We either give up the exchange or we play bishop c6. And then the only other option is to bring the knight back. And I thought for a very long time on this move, by the way. 20 minutes. I spent 20 minutes here because this is critical. 20 minutes. That's an extremely long time. Yeah. But so the problem with knight d7, apart from losing a tempo, is then knight e5. And d7 is hit twice. We can't defend d7. We can't block it because the bishop will come into a6. So I just kept thinking here for 20 minutes. I was like, do I want this? And then here, and there might have even been something else that I forget. That I didn't like was bishop c6. Whoops, did not mean to do that. But then I just kept thinking, and then I found kind of an idea. And it turns out that the idea I had was the only way out of this situation, and the engine's top choice, and it's not easy to find, I think. and I'm pretty happy I found it. Um, okay, sorry. So the idea that I came up was is if I play knight d7 and then he plays knight e5, which seems losing for black or very bad for black. I then looked at sacking the exchange against the 2300 master. So I was looking then at, my idea was knight takes e5. He can't recapture on e5. He could recapture on e5, but then I can just play, I can just move my rook and I'm fine, right? And I could even, yeah, I can move the rook and I'm fine. Or so most likely after knight d7, sorry, let me do this again. So knight d7, knight e5, I was going to take on e5, sack the exchange to let him take my rook. And then I thought knight c4. So at this point, we're just down a full rook, but we're hitting the queen. And after he moves the queen somewhere, I could then take on d4, protecting my knight and winning a pawn. And I forget if I wanted to take the bishop first after, whoops, sorry. I forget if I wanted to take the bishop first here. No, sorry, here, and then if he attacks me. No, I think I was planning, yeah, to do this. So anyways, it wasn't completely clear in my head if it was going to work or not, but I decided to like take the chance because if I don't do that, I'm just going to get crushed here. So it was kind of worth the risk, I think. So I did play knight d7, and he did play knight e5, which turns out to be a blunder by the engine. Even though it's the most natural move, I think he just didn't give me enough credit. I think if I was rated 2300, he would think, he'd be more cautious here, but I think he didn't think I would calculate this as deeply as I did, because yeah, knight e5 is just a blunder. And it's a blunder for the exact reasons that I had thought. The computer says that the way to punish black here is d5, which makes sense because there's a lot of pressure on d6. You could take here, and if I take back here, then it's kind of like a Smith-Morra where the e file gets opened up. Although it's not my king there, but it's just that's the best way for white to punish black here a little bit. But yeah, he played knight e5. I continued with my original idea of taking the knight. He takes my rook, which is, yeah, I mean, he just didn't see my idea here. And then I played knight c4 as originally planned. I don't think he didn't seem to really panic. He just spent 2 minutes on this move. He didn't seem to mind. He played queen d3. And then what happens next is pretty upsetting. For some reason, my mind went null and void, and I spent 8 minutes on the next move, which doesn't make sense because I had already calculated this way back before I played knight d7. But I don't know, like it was the second game of the day, and I wasn't that tired, to be honest. I don't really know why I blundered here. I think it was maybe partly psychological because I am actually doing decently against a 2300. By the way, black is actually better here, not just decently. Black is better. I think it's -1. Yeah, so it's -1 against the 2300 over the board player. Like, what the hell's going on? My original idea was to take on d4. But for some reason, I talked myself out of it. I was deciding between queen takes and pawn takes, but pawn takes just wins a pawn. I saw a ghost here, a stupid ghost, that if I took here on d4, he would have a desperado. And then it wasn't worth it because my king is worsened. But that just makes no sense at all, because my rook would then be defended and I would just be up a bishop for a pawn. So that's honestly the reason I deviated here, and I ended up taking the bishop, which is a blunder. I don't think it's not like losing for black, but I could have held my advantage if I had gone with my original plan. But for some reason, I just thought I miscalculated, and that this desperado is just bad for me. Now I'm going to put on the engine. It might kill the video a little bit here. So, because I'm going to use this engine, it's really kills the processing. How do I even turn it on? Okay, I'm going to turn it on here. So I just want to see, did it turn on? Hang on. There we go. I've got it on now. So I just want to see, is it on though? There we go. Yeah, so if I had taken on d4, as was my original intention, and then if he retreats the bishop now, so he can't go to a4 because of the fork on b2, and if he tries to defend it, I mean, I'm just up a piece. Yeah, I just miscalculated. I mean, because I'm just up a piece. So there's no need for the engine. Let me turn it off. Sorry. Yeah. So, anyways, that's just very frustrating. Because again, if we just go back here, this was my intention when I had this idea and I played knight d7. The whole plan was to do this intermezzo of knight c4, and then just be up a pawn. Just going to look here. So I just want to see what is the best move for black and see what the engine says. Yeah, it's bishop b5. Oh, this is so frustrating looking at this again. Yeah, knight e3, and I think I even looked at that too. I think I considered knight a3 here. So this would, black is better here. You could argue winning. And I would have just been up a piece. That's so frustrating. Sorry. I mean, if my opponent was like 1500 or something, it's not a big deal. But he's 2300, and I could have been winning. In fact, I mean, I was better, and I scared myself out of this. Ugh. Now, the constant, what consoles me is the fact that even if I had not blundered and I did go with my original plan, that, well, let's not give spoilers, so I'll just end it there. But frustrating. Okay, so I took on e8 because I'm stupid, and he took my knight. I took on d4, queen takes d4. Now, I'm just down the exchange here. I don't even have a pawn for it. The only compensation I have is I guess these pawns are a little bit weak, and I have the bishop pair, so there is some, some compensation, but I think the engine says that white is just winning here. I played queen c6, which was not the best move. I think bishop f6 was, but it's not so clear, at least to me. Queen c6 seemed natural enough, but yeah, the computer didn't really like queen c6 so much. So at this point, my opponent actually, after he spent 9 minutes on his next move, which is kind of interesting. So after his next move, he's actually down to 40 minutes, which is kind of low considering he's 800 points higher than me. Like, I'm just a measly 1,500. He's 2,300. So he's down to 40 minutes, but I'm down to 20. So I'm starting to get in some time trouble here. I played bishop f6 now. The computer preferred f6 here instead. He plays rook ac1. And then I made another mistake here, but, you know, to be fair, I'm just worse regardless. But I played rook d8. And this just allows white to trade with no compensation to black. I'm trying to remember. Oh, yeah. It was because of bishop g5. So white can just easily simplify here and trade down. So I shouldn't have played rook d8 for that reason. But he also played an equally good move. He didn't play bishop g5. He played queen g3, which the computer also likes just as much. You know, there's threats of bishop h3, for example, or bishop h6 rather. And it just, you know, frees up the e file as well. And it still defends the c3 pawn. I played queen a4. He plays bishop e5. Just want to check the times on here. Yeah, at this point, I'm down. Well, it's about the same. 37 minutes to 16 minutes at this point. I take. He takes. I play queen c6. And he plays rook e d1. Now, you could argue that maybe I should resign at this point. Or even earlier. You know, he's so much higher rated than me. He's up the exchange. His pieces are quite active. I didn't resign though because I did feel that I had at least an equal position earlier, which I did, and then, you know, I was actually slightly better. And so I thought, you know, why not play on a little bit, because I did have my chances earlier, so why not? He wasn't blowing me off the board in the middle game, so let's just keep playing for a little bit. I trade, you know, begging, hoping for a draw here. I play h6, and he plays f3, which was very annoying, just killing my bishop. I played queen a4. He plays rook d4. I played queen c6. He plays h4. King h7. Rook d8. At this point, he's down to 28 minutes. I'm down to 7. So I'm basically in time trouble at this point. Played a5. I know I'm not going to win, but I thought, you know, just play a little bit. Maybe you can miraculously draw. Who knows? He plays h5. I played bishop c8. At this point, I'm kind of just playing out of inertia because at this point, I only have 5 minutes on the clock. So I'm just playing a few more moves, you know, just to see what happens. He plays king h2. I play f6. He plays queen g3. And I was about to resign, but I thought I'd give one more move. I played g5, and then I resign. I was thinking, yeah, he gives me en passant, and I try to hang on with king g7. But then, wait, is that right? Yeah. But then I saw something which I can't remember. But yeah, I just thought, okay, it's time to throw in the towel at this point because I'm not going to get anything going here. So I could have resigned, 6 moves earlier or so, but yeah, I played on a little bit. So yeah, I ended up losing. It's just slightly a frustrating game because I did calculate this idea out of the opening right here with knight d7 takes knight c4 and then cd. I had this idea and it's good for black. Black is better here. And then I just talked myself out of it. I got scared for no reason. I forgot to keep count of the pieces. I've got 3 pieces, man. I've got 3 pieces. And that's just so frustrating. I do this a lot too. It's not like the only time. I do this a lot online. I just forget the material difference. I'm up a piece. And this was my original intention when I played knight d7. And I just changed my mind. Yeah. I still would have lost eventually, but I could have given him a tougher game. I could have made him really work for it. And that's kind of embarrassing when I'm just a measly 1500 rated player. But what can you do? That's what happened. So that was round 2. I lost against the 2300. I'll have round 3 for you in a few days from now. I'd love to hear your comments. Thanks for watching. See you next time.